Today, we're talking about the magic of the color brown.
And it doesn't get me down.
No, and it doesn't remind me of poo at all.
No, it's chocolate. I think most colors can be polarizing, but I think brown is one of those that seems to elicit either, like we just said, is it chocolate or poop? And I think it can bring up one of two associations. It's either the gorgeous cabinetry and wood tones that are behind you, and
Mm.
gorgeous chocolate, and someone's cascading brown hair, or
Yeah.
it's brown, ugly,
Dirt,
dirt,
dirty,
and
soiled.
yeah, dirty car seat and gross. So
Yeah.
I think it's interesting how is it chocolate or is it poop? And I guess we'll get into it in this episode.
Light from Lantern presents Knit a Spell.
I'm magical maker, Katie Rempe.
And I'm the maker of magic, James Devine.
Join us as we stitch together the symbiotic relationship between crafting
And the craft.
So, what are your first impressions on the color brown?
I love the color brown. To me, it is the color of grass. It's the color of the trees. It's the color of the wood.
Yes.
It's the color of everything. I think brown is fabulous. And in case you're listening, you're like, what? Because I'm colorblind. I don't mean to, yeah.
That's right. Yes. Good clarification, just in case people aren't following. But that actually makes me curious. Do you not pay attention to the color brown because you see so much like some people might do for green because it's everywhere, and especially if you see that as brown?
I think because I am more green blind than I am red blind, and because my field of vision living in the Pacific Northwest is so much filled with green most of the time, with the evergreen trees and the green grass. It's green almost all year round because we hardly ever get snow. Most of my field of vision is filled with green. So I think that compensates a little bit for my color blindness. It's a deficiency, not an absence of. So I think I do see the green more. However, certainly the brown is just so associated with life. It's just always been such a beautiful color to me. I love like the mahogany colors. I've never had a negative association with brown. Of course, there are things that we don't like that are brown, like decomposing things,
Mm.
but generally I've had a pretty good association with brown personally. What about you? What is your association with brown? When you first think of brown, do you think of the positive or do you think of the negative?
All positive for me as well. Yeah. I loved designing brown colors for yarn because it's such a great neutral that people don't always think of. And if it's the right color brown, not the right, but if it's a great complement to what you're looking for, it can be something that has a little bit more life to it, I think, than just going for like a white or a black or a gray, which are very neutral and not like dead, but you get a little bit more dimension, I think, in brown. And I always think of woods too. I love mixing metal and warm woods. I just feel like that combo is really inviting, even though I'm like, oh my gosh, we killed these trees and we're just putting them everywhere. But I also think it's an honor to be able to have them wrapped around us because it really is, for me, a very grounding color, maybe because it's literally trees from the ground and the soil.
Mhm.
And even like the lesser desirable feelings around it, I can always look at and turn around. Okay, it's decaying, but guess what? That is rich soil ready to be grown again. Okay, it's
Right.
dirty, but it's probably really water soluble, so you can wash it out fairly easily. Even
Yeah.
a poo, if you've taken like a really good BM, that could be an amazing day. So even if thing isn't so desirable, it also is
Right.
very desirable. So
Yeah. And part of what makes the weird scent of cow manure in limited doses when it's tilled into the soil is actually somehow can be a pleasant. Now, I know too much of it is horrible.
like
That's
anything.
But when you're somehow out in the farmland, there's a certain scent to that when it's tilled into the soil that can be pleasant. And certainly when you're in the garden and you
Mm,
dig into that rich soil and you smell that fabulous scent of the
mm,
earth, there's nothing better than the scent of nice, rich soil. One of the things that I think of is when I was a kid in the desert, but even here in the Pacific Northwest, we had the first really good rain over the past weekend, and I had the doors open and it started raining. And that first scent of rain,
mm,
which we don't get very often up here, when I grew up in the desert and it would rain, we would get that rain scent all the time,
mm.
every time it rained. But here, it's just if it hasn't rained in a while and there was that scent of rain. Oh man, it was so great. And when I looked outside, the wood got wet and became from dusty ashen gray to dark wood
Mm.
brown, and everything got wet and beautiful. You know how rocks go from that gray and suddenly they're wet and they show all their colors. So I associate, I think, that with the color brown too, is, the wet rain.
Yeah. Speaking of like wet things, other brown items that kind of come to mind are like dark amber or dark like whiskeys and
Yeah.
brown liquors and that sort of thing. And they're all like brown sugar, molasses, all of that like
Yeah.
richness and sugary
Coffee
goodness. Coffee, yes,
and
duh.
And my black tea. We call it black tea, but it's brown. It's a
It's brown.
beautiful, rich brown. So, yeah, so when we drink a gorgeous cup of coffee or tea, and yeah, I think about that brown sugar and molasses, and it's October. So your pumpkin spice latte is brown, but
Yep.
also as we're getting into October, like even orange, we look at the autumnal colors, brown is a huge part of that. Those reds and yellows and oranges of leaves are contrasted against the brown leaves.
I actually consider orange to be like a light brown, at least to a point. And
Right.
so for me, that's where the spectrum is. It's like orangey brown to like almost a black, like you said.
A lot of us are doing art digitally. And so we know when we want to get a brown, we go to the orange and
Mm.
then we make the orange dark. So that's a cute thing, is that we now think of brown as dark orange.
Yeah, exactly. Let's look at some traditional magical meanings, like what brown is in terms of the magical worlds and correspondences.
For sure. So if you're doing folk magic, different types of folk magic might have different associations, but one of them is when we think about brown, folk magic is often associated with sympathetic magic. So it's going to associate a one for one, very simple association. So if we think about brown as the shelving or as the desks or as the environment that you're in, the mahogany shelving of a lawyer's office or the desk of a banker. So brown came to be a color associated in folk magic with dealing with bureaucracy, especially with legal and court cases. And even today, a lot of courtrooms, especially in historic buildings, yeah, it's all like wood, dark wood paneled courtroom with wooden benches and a church, like pews.
Yeah, I never
So,
thought about that before, but yeah, you're totally right. No wonder. Hmm.
yeah, so if you are doing candle magic, for instance, you would light perhaps a brown candle, and then you would use different herbs and different oils, whatever is you need for your case, but you could use brown in that way. So that's one of the associations of brown. But there's lots of other ones, and you said one earlier, which is the element of earth. So a lot of
Yes.
times when we're doing magic, we might use a green candle to symbolize the earth element, but you could just as easily use a brown candle because it's actually the color of dirt
Yes.
and of
Absolutely.
the trunk of a tree.
Yes, of the dying, decaying thing that nourishes the ground again for more growth. Yeah.
Totally.
Yep. It's also associated, unsurprisingly, since it's Earth, with the direction north, which I believe is associated with Earth. Is that correct?
For most traditional witchy folks, there's some that differ, but yeah.
Sure.
So Earth in the north, and of course the planet Earth would be also literally that.
Duh.
Yeah.
Good point. Yep. I've also seen it as representing the page or tens in tarot, which was interesting. And I'm wondering again, is that because it's all encompassing? 10 is the world, or it's like a finish, that kind of a thing?
Right. So if you think about the fool's journey, so this is getting into a little tarot nerddom,
Ooh.
but the major arcana of the tarot, the fool is the zero, and the world represents the completion of the fool's journey cycle. And so, in that same sort of symbolism of the fool going through an entire cycle or a journey, you can think of the 1 through 10 of the pips being also a symbolic journey of the ace being the beginning or the zero of the pure element of that suit, and the 10 being the completion of a cycle of that suit. That's how I like to read the pips, is to incorporate that, the 1 through 10 as a cycle. So when you get to the 10, for instance, the 10 of swords, which is always like the person stabbed in the back by 10 swords, you
Yep.
can look at that as, oh, that's an earth element. It's completion. You're done with that. The cycle is over, which is a very
Yeah.
common way to read that is, yeah, you're laying there with all those swords in your back, and it's also done. What you've been thinking about, what you've been concentrating over, the thing that those thoughts, those repeated keeping you up at night ruminations are over. So you're
Yeah.
grounded back on earth. The swords have pinned you to the ground, but they're just ideas and thoughts, and the sun is rising in the background. So you have this earth element to all of the tens. So that's a
Yeah.
great way to think about it on the little scale, just like on the larger scale of the fool's journey and the major arcana.
Very interesting. I also see it is associated with feminine energy, which I'm guessing is because of blood? Question mark. I don't really know. Or because of birthing, because we make the life, and I don't know. But if you have any insight on that, let me know. But I do find it to be quite a warm color, so I don't really know.
I know that this is stuff that's maybe out there on the internet. So I love that you brought this up, because I am never really a fan of the gendering of colors.
That's true.
You
We're
know,
not trying to sell this color to anybody.
right. So there could be a hermetic or a old-fashioned magical reason why this color in alchemy has an
Mhm.
alchemical gender. So that is a separate sort of magical reason that I haven't looked up. But if we think about it as if we were assigning the genders magically, that's the only way that I could be like, oh, okay, I see what that means. So you could think about it also as, is it electric or magnetic? You can think about those two polarities, which are a
Mm.
little better to talk about than gendered, right? The two polarities of electric or magnetic, or a positive or a negative magnetism.
Mm.
So this would be more of a
Mhm.
magnetic polarity as
Yeah.
opposed to a electric or a repulsing
Yeah.
polarity. So that
Oh.
means that the brown would draw you in, and it would
Hmm.
be more of a restful cradling. You could curl up and relax in a nest of brown.
Yes, that makes
Yeah,
perfect sense because
right.
what do we plant seeds into?
The earth,
The earth. So it
where,
is like a womb
yeah,
almost. Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
the bird would make its nest with brown sticks. You would curl up at the base of a tree. And so in this way, you would see this magnetic, attractive polarity rather than a repulsive polarity. So if you
Sure.
looked at a color that had more of a repulsive or electric polarity, that would be kick you in the ass and get you going and brighten you up, perhaps like an electric yellow, like we talked about in our previous
Hmm.
episode.
When we go into magical uses, what are some instances where you might go for a brown candle or a brown yarn or a brown marker in order to write out the things? Where have you used brown magically in the past?
Yeah, so I've definitely used it to represent the element of earth. So whenever I've needed to ground, whenever I've needed to call the element of earth in a ritual and we didn't have a green candle, or we've wanted to use brown on purpose. And if we've ever had a legal issue or a legal case that we really wanted to influence magically, we've used brown for that reason. Those are the things that I've really seen. What are some other ways that we could use the color brown? Like, I think,
Hmm.
oh, I guess the one other thing I could think of is you can decorate your altar. It's seasonal. Like right now, it's autumn, it's
Hmm.
October. So as you're decorating your altar, perhaps your altar is on the top of your dresser, or maybe you have a dedicated place for where you put your statues or your little, whatever you do for a little altar, which we have an episode on creating an altar,
Yes,
and
indeed.
you should check that out. We'll link it in the notes below. So when you think about keeping up your altar, keep it dusted and update it. So now it's autumn time. We're approaching Samhain at the end of the month. So now's the time for you to, as we already went through Mabon, we went through the autumn equinox. That was the time to decorate your altar in September with autumnal colors, browns and oranges. And now if you haven't done that, you can do it now. You can put up some brown and some orange and some autumnal colors. You could put some leaves on your altar, and that's a great way to bring in the colors that are outside right now. So I like, in the springtime, for instance, I like to bring in some fresh flowers, or even if it's the plastic flowers that you have, the silk flowers that represent spring, and put those on the altar. So you can keep your altar fresh and reflecting what's out there. And that automatically will bring the colors that are happening seasonally. So that's another way to bring brown into your magic, is through that visualization. The visualization is what your altar and your focal points can really be. So if you're doing a specific magical action, using the colors can be very powerful. So think about, do you have a brown cloth you want to put on the table? Do you have brown colored things that you want to incorporate? And that can help you if you need those elements of earth. But you had some other ideas, Katie, on what brown could be used for.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind for me is grounding. Literally, it's the ground, soil and dirt and everything. So it could represent stability, of course.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yep. Reliability, things that are trustworthy and secure.
Yeah.
Things like earthiness, obviously, which we talked about already. Just simplicity. So being like modest, humility.
I love this idea of endurance. If you need the endurance and the strength to get through it, the holidays are coming. I hate to say it, there's already Christmas crap in stores.
There's been Christmas crap in stores since July. It's terrible.
I know. So
relentless.
It's the reminder that you have to make it through the holidays.
Good point.
And it's sad to say, but it used to be fun when we were kids, and now it's, oh my God, am I going to make it?
I drink a little brown around the holidays too.
I know, that's why whiskey is brown.
Yes. And it also offers you a bit of warmth and
strengthening.
Yep, exactly.
Little liquid courage.
Yes, indeed.
For Uncle John.
Yes, and his, quote, very funny jokes. Yes. Thanks, Uncle John. Yeah.
I think about that endurance and how you could light a brown candle and visualize you are strong. You can make it. You will totally do great.
Yeah. What's strong? Hard woods. Even just surrounding yourself by the trees and looking at how they can withstand so much. I think about the trees back in Florida that survived the hurricane, so much wind energy. And not all of them did, but the ones that did, I feel like I remember looking out the back window and there was a huge, very tall pine tree that I thought, if this tree can survive, we'll be fine. And it stood strong. And that really helped me ground by just looking at the tree and being like, okay, it's not freaking out. It's a tree. It's standing strong outside, and I'm inside, and I'll be okay. And so it really offered me the strength that I needed in a time where I was not feeling very grounded.
I know, you in Tampa in the middle of that hurricane.
But luckily, stood strong. Like I said, I went around to all of the trees before the wind really started, and I asked for their help, and they all helped. They all stood strong for their safety and ours. All right, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll talk about making with brown.
Why learn palmistry? The Divine Hand method of palmistry will give you a transformative and empowering understanding of palmistry that is distinct from the conventional fatalistic approaches that are prevalent in other palmistry methods. Here are 3 major distinctions of the Divine Hand method. Number 1, freedom from fatalism. The Divine Hand method reveals patterns, not predictions, liberating you from the predictive meanings assigned to features on the hand. Every attribute on the palm carries both aligned and misaligned qualities. This understanding gives you, a recipient of the reading, profound freedom to choose your path. Number 2, rubrics and patterns. Instead of memorizing fixed interpretations, it allows you to discover a logical foundation you can apply universally, making the process of palmistry more intuitive and insightful. The rubrics also carry over between palmistry and other metaphysical practices like astrology and tarot. The knowledge gained from the divine hand method can be seamlessly applied across multiple modalities, enriching your overall spiritual understanding. And the last reason to learn palmistry, spiritual growth and self-awareness. As you explore the intricacies of palmistry, the insights you gain from learning about your hands and the hands of others often leads to a deeper understanding of your own unique gifts. And this is so often accompanied by a sense of self-acceptance, which can be profoundly transformational. So if you've been interested in palmistry, but you have yet to find something that speaks to you out there, the Divine Hand Method offers practitioners an alternative approach, one that shifts the focus from prediction to understanding patterns and revealing deeper truths. Through the Divine Hand Method, you will embrace the power of the hands as a source of insight, inspiration, and personal growth in the journey through life's mysteries. Join me in learning the Divine Hand Method of palmistry in either my introduction to palmistry or my intermediate level of palmistry. Find out more at introtopalmistry.com.
Hey there, Knit a Spell fans. Guess what? We have a new home on Patreon. You can now support the show for just $5 a month at patreon.com/knitaspell. It's a great way to show your support for one of your favorite podcasts while also being able to participate in monthly polls, bonus video footage, and behind-the-scenes posts. After 3 months, you'll receive a free Knit a Spell sticker sent directly to your home. We hope you'll join us. To learn more and sign up, visit patreon.com/knitaspell. See you there.
Hey, Katie. Violets are blue, roses are brown. The colors we see don't get us down.
I know that's right.
Speaking of brown,
Yes.
when we were talking about yellow, we were looking at all the different companies that have yellow logos, and we were like, yellow, who loves yellow? You love yellow.
I do.
And it was hard for me to really think about companies that have brown logos. Like, how is brown really used out there? And I thought, who the heck would have a brown logo? But then you said,
What can brown do for you?
duh, UPS.
Hello. Yeah.
And so that was also in the yellow logos. And what are they known for? Stability, reliability. UPS will bring you that package.
And what color are the packages usually? Brown.
Like a box, right?
Cardboard. Yep.
So they're really leaning into that branding. So it's pretty interesting to think about how they're using brown and how the magical associations also overlap with the marketing feeling of brown. But it's interesting when we look at the logos for brown, what are other things that are brown? We talked about them earlier.
Yes. Chocolate, for one. So if you're a chocolate company, odds are you probably have at least some brown, if not predominantly brown, much like Hershey's or M&M's.
M&M's, yes.
Yes.
Or if you are a coffee company,
Yes.
you are most
exactly.
likely going to have a brown or have brown in your logo. And although Starbucks has a green logo today, originally the old-fashioned, which I love their original logo,
Me too.
with the,
The mermaid.
the boobs out mermaid.
I was thinking just like cotton, the cotton company, as it
like
were.
the if you're going to promote cotton as an industry, I guess it can't really be white or you wouldn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a brown logo.
Yep. Brown background, white cotton.
We also have like very accessible, down to earth, simple, like Cracker Barrel. That's brown and I think a gold background. So I never
Yep.
really thought about Cracker Barrel having that brown and gold, but that's very down home, very,
Country.
very country.
Yep.
It's very
And if you're-
inexpensive. So on
And-
one end of the spectrum, I'm coming out of the sort of like very simple, I don't have to have a lot of money, I can eat at Cracker Barrel. But
Mhm.
there's another side of that spectrum of brown.
Oh, yes. Perhaps you are familiar with the Louis Vuitton VL logo, which is stamped everywhere. And think leather also is very
Right.
rich and luxe. And of course, they might want to put that in there because I'm sure a lot of their accents are high quality, I would hope, leather goods.
Yeah. From LV to Cracker Barrel, from LV to CB,
That's right.
Brown's got it down.
Well, both are, if you think of it, two sides of the spectrum, like you said, of being something that is quite reliable. So if you think, okay, if I'm in theory paying this much for a bag, it should last my whole life, pass it down to my kids heirloom style. And also, where Cracker Barrel is everywhere on every exit. And so that's another like reliable stop where you can go, that you can even like RV camp at a lot of their parking lots, which is pretty cool.
Right.
If that's your scene,
Yeah,
you could be doing that for free.
walk into your CB with your LV bag.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Get a little country fried steak. Yum. As it turns out, if you're a company that sells something that's brown, you probably will have brown in your logo for that sympathetic aspect. So
Most likely, yeah. Let's get to making. As a designer, as a maker, when we think about brown, I think the 70s are over. That was probably Brown's shining moment.
yes, brown and
Right.
orange in all their glory. Woof.
Yeah. How popular is brown today, and are people using it in the fashion industry?
I would still say it is prominent. However, it's a hard sell, at least in terms of the yarn world, which is where my expertise lies. The browns that I would always make, because you had to have one in order to really have the look of the line feel right. But I think that most people, when they use a brown, they use mostly brown. So it's not like a lot of bits of brown. I know at least that's been my experience. I'll go for an entirely brown shirt or a big brown cape or something like that to wrap me up in that chilled vibe. But generally it's a lower selling color. So I think, like you said, it had its time, and a lot of people have a bit of a kind of nostalgia for it that they don't care for. So
Yeah, that's too bad. There's nothing better than a beautiful brown wrap. I used to have this brown sweater that I absolutely loved, this wool sweater, and it was bulky and fantastic, and it just the epitome of comfort. And I love like a brown wool coat in the winter, brown
yeah.
corduroy pants. So
Yes,
I
brown
can,
cords.
yeah, I could see like knitting a really cute
Mhm.
brown hat, a floppy hat or something.
Yep.
A winter cap or something would be really fantastic. If you're doing anything for a team, like the Cleveland Browns, a lot of team sports have maybe a brown stripe or something. So that could be one area. I bet you in Cleveland they sell brown.
Absolutely, they do. Yeah, brown and orange. That is the only place in the whole country that's, yeah, it's still in. It's still in. We love it. So. And maybe that was like the last time they won was the 70s too. I don't exactly know. So sorry, Cleveland. But yeah, so interestingly enough, speaking of brown yarns, I was like, man, maybe I should look and see what kind of brown yarns I even have. Do I have
Yeah.
any brown
Do you?
yarns? Yes, I do. So I found a couple, one
Okay.
of which is this like almost reddish tone brown, so very warm brown, but it's
Yeah.
very heathery. It's like almost a tweed. It has a lot of light bits in here as well. And I really feel like it looks like a tree, right? Like a trunk.
Yeah. What could you imagine making out of that?
I made
What
a
is that?
t-shirt out of it.
You did?
I did. Yes, this is the skein I had left when I was done. So always buy an extra. Now it's
So
a
you
matching
used
haul later.
that fingering weight tweed
Mm-hmm.
wool yarn to make a t-shirt.
Yep.
How
It had just a plain stockinette front, but the back was all lace. So it was really pretty.
Oh my gosh, whatever happened to that? You still have it?
I don't have it anymore. It was something that I made a long time ago, but it was a lot of fun to make. I remember first seeing it at a trade show in that exact color. And I was one of those people that was like, yes, I need that, exactly that. So go
So
figure.
cute. Oh my gosh,
Yep.
that's so cute. Yeah, what
And
a cool
then,
color. All right, what else you got?
all right, I have one more. This one, I had an idea of what I wanted to make. It was a cardigan, and I just haven't ever gotten there yet. But the yarn is so beautiful that I just couldn't say no and just get rid of it. So it's a like a variegated but very tone on tone color.
What am I seeing here? Darker browns and more
Yep.
golden browns.
Yep. And like a reddish tone brown. And it's got sparkles in it, Jim. But you
Oh,
would
shut
say,
up. Oh,
Selena. Oh, yeah.
that
You can't
is
really see it too
gorgeous. That
well,
is
maybe.
beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, so one day this is going to be something. This may actually be something sooner than later now that we're
Okay,
talking about it.
what does that fingering weight yarn want to
Hmm.
be, you think? You said,
Initially a cardigan,
oh, okay,
but
okay.
maybe at this point it wants to be a shawl or something. So who knows? I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Or I was thinking it could make really great like grounding socks. Want to go with something very literal?
Sure, sure,
Make it
yeah.
brown. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It would also make really cool fingerless like
Mm.
gloves just because it has the sparkle and you would see it as you
Yeah.
were, it's got that little bit of bling. Because in
Maybe.
socks are cool, but it's got that little bit of sparkle.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe it's going to be future river mitts. Good call,
Yeah,
Jim. Good
those
call.
those river mitts are cool. It would also make
Yeah.
a really fabulous floppy hat just because of the sparkle too.
Oh yeah, I agree. Or like a stole or basically anything.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of cashmere in it too. It's super
Yeah.
luxe.
Yeah. Maybe you need to ground your crown pattern.
Ground your crown. I like
Come through,
that.
Katie Rempe.
Jim the designer, I'll
I
make your
just,
dreams come true.
I know I do have a pair of purple sparkly socks because of you.
That's true. Yep,
Mm,
good
so happy.
point.
We already thought of some brown projects just
Mm-hmm.
from this ground your crown. That could be really cool. How would you use, so if you made a ground your crown hat,
Mm-hmm.
a beanie or a hat or something for your head, I would wear that when I was just feeling really like nuts and I just
Mm-hmm.
need to slow my roll and meditate, or I needed to have a day where I need peace, calm, and tranquility.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there would be a variegated yarn that might have a little bit of that red in there, that
Mm-hmm.
reddish brown. So that's very with my heart and the heart chakra. If I was knitting that, I would center myself. I would really be in meditation. I'd be playing either some guided meditation or some music that is really about being in that space and
Mm-hmm.
burning some incense, or maybe when it's in my bag, when I'm not knitting, I would have some hematite in there,
Oh.
some black tourmaline in there, some things that are very grounding. And then when you wear it, you
Mm.
put it on and just feel your whole body relax, your whole body chill. And it's like
Yeah.
your magical benzo.
Yeah. It's like that hat Magneto wears in order to not get like the psychic vibes. Yeah, totally.
Or that, exactly what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ground your crown.
Ground that crown. All right. Look for Ground Your Crown coming next month.
I'm making Katie make this thing. I'm promising it for everybody. And she's, Jim, I haven't even thought of this. Stop popping things on in the middle of an episode that I haven't even thought about.
You got to take the inspiration sometimes when it comes, right? Didn't we learn that?
I'm really,
That's fine.
I'm
I'll take it.
channeling this from the aliens to you.
That's right. Well, tell them I said hello, and could they hurry up, please? We need their help. So it's a shit show, and that's brown too. Please help. So.
All right. What's a project you would use for brown? So I got into your world with knitting. You can get into my world with palmistry or whatever.
What kind of like gloves or something can I make so that it would be hard for you to read people's palms or something? Like you're just gonna have to intuit it and based
Stitch,
on how you can feel through there. Yeah.
yeah, stitch the orange lines on the glove
Yeah.
for me.
Ooh, actually, that might be fun. Okay, we got to stop talking about all these awesome project ideas because I'm never gonna have time to make them all. But that would actually be really fun doing gloves with the lines on them, right?
The
Just for fun.
palmistry gloves. Oh, so cool.
So fun. I think actually a really great project to make in brown could just be like a blanket. You know, it's very utilitarian. It's there for you to be wrapped up in. You don't want it to be like really distracting. It's still a color that would show off a variety of different stitch patterns really easily, I think, especially if it's more on the solid side. But Yeah, I think like a grounding blanket, which then you can spread on the ground also and take with
Yeah.
you. I think that would be really fun.
Please send us an email or leave a comment below if you're watching it on YouTube. That's what we need you to do. How would you use the color brown in your magical making?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I am inspired to go make something brown, like some coffee or something. Yeah, I think we should wrap this episode up.
Sounds really terrible. I'm inspired to go make something brown.
Oh, chocolate, right? Chocolate? No.
I love
All
the color
right.
brown, and it's been so much fun hanging out with you, Katie.
Yes, always a pleasure. I'll see you next week, Jim.
See you next week.
Thanks for
Thanks for listening.
If you enjoyed the show, consider sharing it with a friend, leaving a review on iTunes and Spotify, or following Knit a Spell on Instagram.
You can also subscribe to the Light from Lantern YouTube channel to enjoy full episodes of Knit a Spell and see our happy faces.
You can also learn more about readings, classes, and events going on with your favorite maker of magic, James Devine, by visiting thedivinehand.com and subscribing to his newsletter. Then follow Jim's fun and interactive Instagram account at DivineHandJim.
Keep up with Katie, the magical maker, by subscribing to her newsletter at lightfromlantern.com. You'll receive a free knitting pattern as a thank you gift. Then follow Katie on Instagram at lightfromlantern for even more magical making tips. See you next week.